Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host, and I'm excited by this brand new segment of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. And I know you are too, and I know that's why you all tune in back once again to hear these segments, and they are just absolutely amazing with some incredible guests. And this one is no different. And it is with the help of John Deere Golf that I'm able to continue bringing these fantastic interviews to you, ladies and gentlemen. And John Deere are proud to be backing Keeper of the Greens, and we continue to do so, and we're going around for another year. I've got to mention it because it's just so exciting. John Deere Golf is all in when it comes to supporting the turf industry, and they are here to help you move your game forward together. Your team's passion keeps this game alive, and that's why John Deere delivers trusted equipment and support you can count on. And when it comes to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast and Keeper of the Greens, the passion that I have is equally matched by the passion that John Deere Golf has for our industry. Since 1987, John Deere Golf has been building trust and excellence on golf courses right around the world. Have you heard about John Deere's Operations Centre Pro Golf? It's a total game changer. If you haven't seen it in action yet, do yourself a favour and ask your local dealer for a demo and see how it can transform your golf course. There's local dealers across Australia and New Zealand that are ready to help you make smarter turf decisions with precision tech and expert advice. And you can find out where they are nearest to you if you get onto the John Deere Golf website, and that is at deere.com.au, deere.com.au, and you can get on there and you'll be able to search relative to where you are and find your local dealers in a snap. No time at all. As they say, at John Deere, let's move your game forward together. And that's what it's all about. And with no further ado, this is episode number 145. Ladies and gentlemen, I am incredibly excited for this episode of John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens, and we are heading to another regional golf course. We're going to the central west of New South Wales, a place that I know very well and I am a fan of and growing up in and around the region. We're going to the beautiful country town that is Orange, and we're straight into a golf club called Duntryleague Golf Club, where I've got Superintendent Craig Geeve joining me on the phone. G'day, Craig. How are you, mate?
Well, thank you, Steve. How are you?
Mate, I am good. Thank you for jumping on here, mate. And we've got you in the shed. This is a live recording, so there might be a bit of noise and things because it's not like a modern shed where you've got big offices and rooms. And I say that for, probably the 1% of the golf courses in Australia that have got that. But there might be a little bit of background noise as we go through the day, mate. But I'm excited to have you on. So thank you for jumping onto the pod, mate. This is going to be a bit of fun.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Nice to be here, and hopefully I can give some insights into my career and Duntryleague, and hopefully it helps someone out there or gives someone the confidence to progress their career or look into things maybe differently.
Mate, that's it. That's what we're all about. Lots of wonderful insights. It doesn't matter what part of the spectrum you're on. I think there's always something that people get from listening to stories from people such as yourself, mate. So let's have some fun here. And we're going to talk about your career. We're going to talk about Duntry, like I mentioned. And I start off with a little bit of fun with Steve's Super 7 questions. Short answers or long answers, depending on how you feel like going. Mate, are you ready to go with these ones?
All right, let's give it a go.
Let's do it. And you're the second person only to have these, so we're coming in stone cold. So if you've heard anything before, these are new. These are brand newies. So I had Keegan on it last from the Sands at Torquay, and I sort of stumped him a little bit on the fact that they were fresh. So here we go. Number one, tea or coffee? What's your preference?
I usually have coffees in the morning, but I think tea's probably better for you. I probably don't drink enough water during the day. I'm a little bit impartial, but I normally have a coffee to warm myself up because it's pretty cold out here.
Well, you'd need it out of Orange, mate.
Yeah.
When those cold winds come blowing in the depths of June and July, you definitely need a warm coffee to get you going with a bit of caffeine to start, mate. Number one, good stuff. Number two, stripes or no stripes on fairways. How do you fit here, mate? What are your thoughts and what do you think?
We stripe here at Duntryleague.
Yep.
We've got tree line fairways, so I think it fits the property quite well. I know some people think you're trying to take the attention away from areas or trying to distract the visual aspect of the golf course by putting stripes in. But no, I think the stripes showcase the place. And for us, it's a quicker method of cutting. That may sound a bit strange.
That's interesting, mate. Elaborate if you don't mind.
Well, my guys, we'll go into it a bit later, I guess, but I've only got one other qualified guy here, and he hasn't worked on a golf course for 20 years. But I've basically trained all my guys personally, and I give them the choice with a lot of things. I say to them, do you want a half moon? Do you want a stripe? Because here at Duntryleague, we have very, very heavy dews. So if we half moon, we've got to do it in the mornings. Then we can use the dew to our advantage.
Yep.
If we stripe, we've got to do it in the afternoons in amongst golf, which sounds unproductive, but it's quite the opposite. So anyway, they've done a bit of both, and they like the stripes. They like the visual aspect of it, and they like the speed side of things. So when you're cutting stripes, because we try to burn our stripes in, we only single cut. So we single cut twice a week.
Okay.
So you literally go up and down each line once. Where when we half moon, we tend to drive, half or 3/4 of the fairway just to pick up 2 cylinders worth, but you've got 5 cylinders on the ground.
With huge overlap, right? Yep, the little narrow strip you've got to just fill in, colour in the middle.
Yeah, and I know obviously there's wear and tear on the machines, the head's coming up and down a lot more with the striping and that, but yeah, the boys, I leave it to them to a degree. If they take pride in their work, they're gonna get more fulfillment and work harder. So they like the striping aspect, and it doesn't hurt us labour wise. So we stripe.
Good stuff, mate. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that with us and your thoughts. It's good for people to hear different opinions, and I know as we go through this conversation, we've got lots to talk about, mate. I think we're going to hear some great things from your thoughts along the way, mate. So thank you. Number 3. Now this is interesting. See how I can say it. See if I can get the wording right here when I say it. Tee marker setup. Do you prefer to have them set up where the tee markers are the full width of the tee cut, or do you have it narrower in the middle of the tees and so that you can move them around to different sections of the tees? What do you like here?
Here we go. You've been talking to my captain, have you?
No, I was there with you, of course. This question is attributed to my visit out to see you a few weeks ago. So I thought it was an absolute perler, because lots of people go through this scenario in these in their committee meetings and so on. So, mate, where do you sit?
Well, it's raised its head again.
Hope I haven't upset the apple cart here.
No, I just won't tell them to listen to this podcast.
Or listen and people can learn, because there's lots of things to learn, lots of conversations.
That's true. No, so when I first got here to Duntryleague, the tees were in pretty rough shape. I started in October, so they've come out of a long winter, and as you've seen, they're square tees and they're relatively small, especially on the tees where you would like them larger, like the par 3s.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to have large tees on the par 4s and 5s, and then small tees on the 3s, which
kind of
doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's the irony of it all, right?
So anyway, I put a picture to the board about splitting our tee markers in half. Anyway, one of my points to the board was that if you've got full width, you might move those tees hypothetically 20 times up the tee. If you split them in half, that can turn into 40.
Correct.
So you can manage that wear a little bit better. So anyway, they said, it's new to them, and sometimes new or change is scary, but they've been really good, my board. They've let me do a lot of things and, given me a lot of freedom. So they said, let's trial it for 3 months. So we did, and there was a few complaints come in, and by a few I mean less than 10%. But they saw the impact on the tee surfaces improve so significantly that they said they want them to stay half width.
Wow.
So recently we've had a couple members complain again because we do have a couple of trees, like alleyways that you shoot through, and
narrow shoots. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters if they're left or right or if they're full width. Like, you're going to try to get to the centre of that tee as much as possible, especially if you're a B and C grader. But that it's raised its head again. But I think my big philosophy in what I do is if you keep doing the same thing, you shouldn't expect different results. So,
isn't that the definition of insanity? Something along
that's
those
right.
lines, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah, exactly. So, my point to them is we had this situation. We tried something and it's improved us significantly. 2 years later, I don't want to forget where we've come from. And unfortunately, you've got to produce photos. Photos are your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in board reports, they speak 1,000 words, but you just got to remind people. And yeah, okay, it would be great to have full width and, it looks like the PGA Tour every week. But unfortunately, we're running 150 to 200 golfers a day and it's not closed for a week. We don't have 80 volunteers. And, we've got to be a little bit smarter about how we manage things. And, that's fine. That's my job. I've got to explain that to my board and my membership and just remind them when, things have been good for a little while, touch wood, let's go back to how things were. And I've got to try to guide them away from that, I think, if it's going to be detrimental.
There's a lot in there, mate, and I'll try and expand a little bit on the back of what you've said there, because I think it doesn't matter what we talk about in life, in the world, in society. It doesn't matter in your work. If we don't remember where we've come from, we're likely to make the same mistakes that we've made in the past. And you can look at that in so many different ways about your life and how you go about things. And I think with the working on a golf course and maintenance of a golf course, you said something pretty important there that I used to use a lot as a superintendent, which is photos. And they really do. I found them extremely helpful as a superintendent because we as humans have very short memories, even though we reluctantly will ever admit it to ourselves. And when it comes to the emotional attachment that members have to the golf course that they're members of, that they play regularly because they love it so much, that's why they're members, that's why they play it so much, they do forget. They have short memories and they don't want to impose a restriction or a difficulty upon their game. That's what they do so much. So I find that those, like you said, using those tools, and I used to use a lot with photos to remember, because even I forget. When you see something every day, you forget how far it's come, and you forget in those distant memories. And you look back at some of the photos, you go, was it ever really like that? Was it ever that bad? Or were those trees ever grown out that far before we trimmed them back? Or whatever it might be. And yes, they often are, and they often were. So, mate, well said. I just wanted to expand on that because you've articulated that very well. I think for people listening that aren't greenkeepers, that do play golf, that are on the other side of the equation. So hopefully they take something out of that, because that was very well said. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Cheers, Steve.
Number 4. Mate, we're only halfway. These 7 questions. This is going to be good. Number 4, what's your favourite grass variety to work with, mate? What do you like? Well, even what do you just like in general? What's your favourite?
Oh. How many friends do I have in the industry? I'll say Poa annua.
That set the cat amongst the pigeons, and lots of people have probably hung up the phone right
now. Yeah, sorry for your ratings this week, Steve.
We're just tanked, ladies and gentlemen. We've tanked out. No, mate, that's something that we're going to explore a little bit here in this episode, but I want to let everyone know that we're going to talk on another episode about deep into the turf specifics and things that you do on the course there. But we're going to learn a lot today in this Keeper of the Greens, but we're going to do some more deep diving into the grass for the real techies and turfies, because there's a lot in what you said there with Poa being your favourite grass, mate. I've never heard, all the interviews I've ever done, no one has ever said that. Full stop. So that's going to get a lot of question marks in people's heads and a lot of eyebrows raised right there. So, mate, very good. We'll save that, diving into that, for another time, because there's a lot in there. Number 5.
I am different, Steve. So.
Mate, this is fantastic because, look, we'll just keep talking because we're going to get there. Number 5. Should bunkers be presented perfectly for golf in the same way that we do for turf surfaces?
No, I don't think so.
Cool.
No, I think they should be, whatever process you might use, whether you broom faces, rake bases, or you board the whole bunker, you use a bike, that doesn't matter. I think they should be prepared maybe once or twice a week. Blow the debris out of them, etc., because we get a lot of debris from trees, etc., because we're heavily tree lined. But yeah, I think that whole philosophy from some golfers, not all, I don't want to categorize everyone, but that, you got to have a perfect lie every time you go in a bunker. Bunkers are there to take away shots. A zero handicapper should be able to hit the green without going in the bunker. If they've gone in the bunker, they've taken a risk, and that's unfortunately the downside of taking that risk. Where B and C graders, they've got a handicap because they're not expected to go on the green. They're going to hit it in the rough. They're going to hit it in the bunker. So they've got a handicap there for a reason. And I think to have bunkers manicured perfectly, considering the labour involved and the time management, you're taking, well, in my case, a limited crew anyway. 6 guys who are trying to maintain a whole 50 hectare property. We're spending a lot of time in bunkers. I don't see the common sense behind that. I think that bunkers are there to penalise golf. I don't think they should have rabbit holes all through them, don't get me wrong, but if there's footprints in there, well, who's walked in there? Maybe the golfers should be raking their footprints.
I agree.
But yeah, I think we should maintain them maybe once or twice a week, just to kind of level them out, move some sand around the base, etc. But yeah, I don't think we should be maintaining them as much as probably golfers expect us to.
Very good, mate. Well said again. I've got a feeling as I look through these questions, I think that I must have written them, after solely thinking about our conversations at Duntry when I was there. Let's go to the next one. Number 6. What is your opinion of green speeds?
It's a very individual thing. I think the stim meter, for example, the way we measure greens, although there's now the GS3 ball, I think the stim meter can be interpreted incorrectly.
That's an interesting point.
More so memberships and golfers.
Yep.
I think it can be we're better than the club next door, or we're not as good as the club next door, potentially, where I keep the stimp away from my board and away from my members. It's an internal thing. I do that so we know where our maintenance practices are at. But I've recorded the stimp now for a year and a half privately, and I've put comments next to my stimps on certain days. I go and ask certain golfers, not the same ones all the time, but I know who's the good golfers, who's not so good, who are typical whingers, etc., etc. And I'll get feedback on a weekly basis. And it's funny, one week they could be, let's just pick a number. It's obviously not, and I'm doing this for a reason, but say they're 13 and the golfers are like, gee, they're brilliant. How good are they? The next Wednesday, they're 13.2 and everyone's like, oh, they're rubbish today. But there's only been 2 inches of difference. But, yeah, I think it's a very individual thing. I think it's a good way to get consistency across your own golf course. But comparing different golf courses, it's completely irrelevant. Green size, slope, it all comes into it, turf species. I think it's a very, very good tool for managing your own membership in your own golf course, but I don't think it should be used as a comparison, which unfortunately maybe not superintendents do, but definitely memberships do.
Yep. Agreed, mate. Well said. Once again, this is brilliant. People are going to get so much out of this. It's only 7 questions. We could stop after this and hang up and everyone's got heaps out of it. This is fantastic. Well said, mate. Number 7, the final one. Final one. And this is hopefully one to get people interested about other places. So which golf course, not your own, would you recommend people visit and why? It's a bit of a paying it forward. Getting people to learn and look outside and see what's going on.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Steve. You've probably caught me a little bit off guard there.
Well, I got there's lots that comes out of these conversations, and tweaking these is doing just that a little bit more, hopefully. So, yeah.
There's probably a couple answers here for me.
Okay.
without dragging this on, because I know your reviews are going down rapidly.
Mate, I think this is going to go unreal. I got to be honest. I think people are going to get so much out of this. I'm getting so much out of it, and I'm the one doing the bloody thing.
Well, I guess we'll see if I get invited back. I would say from a superintendent, like my point of view, I guess, not a superintendent's. That's
from your point of view. Exactly.
My point of view, I would like my members to go and visit similar clubs with similar membership fees.
Okay.
To see if they're getting value for money.
Okay.
I would also like them to go and see the likes of Royal Melbourne, the Pinnacle, or those clubs.
Arguably, yeah.
Metro, Peninsula Kingswood. I don't want to, say one's better than the other, but go and look at one of those Pinnacle golf clubs where they host major tournaments, etc., and see the resources that they have to produce the services they've got and the membership fees that are involved, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them to go and see it for, this is a once in a lifetime to play this golf course. I'd want them to go and compare us, for example, with similar like-minded clubs and just see, are we on the right track or are we not? And then go and see what the Pinnacle is and see just how good it can be with the resources if you equip the staff with the resources.
Yeah. Okay. Mate, that's I'll take that. I don't know what I'm going to get out of these questions. I'm learning, but so, mate, thank you. That's Steve Super 7, probably the deepest Steve Super 7 I've ever had, and I think it's worked very well for these new questions. So thank you, Craig. That's very insightful already, mate. And I think there's going to be some people thinking just how deep we can go here. So, mate, it's brilliant. Fantastic. This is what I wanted to get you on for, as we had some great conversations, and we've had a lot over the phone, but when I was out there at Duntry having a look, we had some fantastic yarns about things that we're seeing and doing and what you're up to, which is why I want you on, mate. So now this is about your career. We've done the fun part. That's the fun part. Let's learn about your career, mate. Can you tell us a bit about how you got to the point of being superintendent at Duntryleague? How did you break into greenkeeping? I think anyone listening to that last, maybe 15 minutes, I guess, of those 7 questions has probably got an idea that you're a bit of a deep thinker about your passion, which is greenkeeping, being a superintendent. You think about things greatly and deeply, and that's why I think you and I got on so well. And I want you to take us back. How did you come into the trade? Where did you do it? Can you step us through your career path to get to where you are at Duntryleague today, please, mate? We're looking forward to it. I certainly am, because I have no idea where you've been.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Steve. I don't know if you want the audience to go and get a coffee or a tea and settle in, but it's funny that you say I'm a deep thinker, because I went to Year 12 at school. I went through all the way and got my HSC. But we had work experience opportunities, obviously, as we approached the end of our schooling career. And I really, really love woodwork.
Okay.
I did a major work in Year 12. I built a big coffee table out of river red gum, etc.
Oh, nice.
Which is still our family dining table. But
fair income.
I just love woodwork. Love it. Anyway, when I was getting to the end of
We could just break off here and start talking about timbers. Let's talk about carry woods and red gums and jarrah and all sorts of stuff. Man, I love it.
Yeah, well, I do too. But so I really love woodworking. Anyway, I spoke to people as I came to the end of my schooling career, and career-wise and how to go about it and what everyone's thoughts were, and just got some opinions. And I wouldn't say majority of people, but quite a few people did say that excuse me, mate, I've got a bit of a cough.
All good.
Quite a few people did say that you don't necessarily resent your job, but you get tired of your job and you lose the love for the job.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I don't want to do that with woodworking. I want that to be like I love it. I don't want to fall out of love with that. So I did some work experience at different places in horticulture and that kind of stuff. And anyway, I played golf. I was a junior member at Pennant Hills Golf Club. Played out at Riverside Oaks and a few other places. I was fortunate enough down the south coast, etc. So I really liked golf, and I thought, oh, I like plants and bonsai, etc. So I thought, why not get into the golf course? And there's so many different avenues straight away. Like you knew you were dealing with turf, or you deal with gardens, or there's a bunch of different avenues you can go down in horticulture, landscaping, etc. So I sent my resume out to, I'm just guessing here, but it would have been about 30 or 40 clubs. And I got 3 responses back, a couple of acceptances, one being Muirfield, which I accepted.
Okay.
One being, which is ironic, Peter Watts at Terry Hills at the time, who unfortunately didn't have a position available, but he did get back to me. So, yeah, I ended up taking the Muirfield job and went to Muirfield as an apprentice, and that was in December 2004.
Is that Carlingford way?
Yeah, it is. It's in between sort of Carlingford and Northmead, and kind of in that pocket there.
Yep.
So yeah, I did my apprenticeship there at Muirfield, and that was under Mark Warwick at the time. And then I think I was a 4th year at the stage, just started my 4th year, and Mark decided to leave, and I was going over to America for 5 weeks on annual leave. Anyway, I said goodbye to Mark, and that went on holidays. And when I came back, ironically, Peter Watts was the new superintendent.
Oh, so he'd come over from Terry Hills.
Yeah, which, I thought, oh, this is good. It's one of the only people that got back to me and said, I appreciate you sending a resume, but unfortunately we don't have a position. So I walked in there and introduced myself to Pete and said, hi, mate, my name's Craig. I work here. And he goes, not yet, you don't. And I'm like, huh? He thinks I'm just walking off the street. And then Greg, the assistant, had to jump in and say, no, Pete, this is Craig, the 4th-year apprentice. So, I've got a really good relationship with Peter. He's a great guy, and he just thought I walked in off the street and thought I had a job. But anyway, that was a bit of fun. But so I finished my apprenticeship under Peter and started my associate diploma.
Right. Okay.
At Ride TAFE. Muirfield was really good. I learned a lot there. Kaikuyu golf course with bent power greens. They built 4 new greens before I started my apprenticeship, actually. The 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 6th, and it was G2 bent grass.
Right. Okay.
And I remember when Pete kind of got there, and I didn't, being an apprentice, you know a little bit. I didn't think I knew everything by any means, but you didn't know what was going on at board level, etc. So we were trained to go out there and cut those greens first and then go to the others, so we didn't spread power seed around, etc. So one day Pete came in, he was watching me mow, and anyway, he's pulled me aside and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm mowing these greens, so we don't contaminate them with power grass. He goes, no, go the other way. I want you to mow them last. I'm like, what are you talking about, Pete? And he goes, there's no point having 4 greens completely different to the other 14. He goes, we need them all to be power. And that's where I started to think a bit differently. And what are we trying to achieve on a golf course? And I think it's consistency, obviously, especially on greens. But across the whole golf course, you want tees to be consistent, fairways, etc. So I really appreciated that from Pete, that it wasn't like these greens are brand new, we don't want them to get infested with power. It was, we need them infested as quick as possible, because they're playing totally different to everything else, and it's actually not consistent. It's bad. That
is so different to what your first thought inclination will be, your sort of reaction to which way should you do this. And like what you said, that's what I was taught as an apprentice. Like, we had a couple of new greens where I grew up and did my trade. Same. Don't try and protect them as much as you can. We'll spray the power out where we can. We just don't. The rest of them, or nearly all power, but these couple we want to make sure they're still bent. But why? Like, I never would have questioned that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I've as I said, I've got a really good relationship with Pete. I haven't spoken to him for a little while. I had a lot of time for Pete, and I I really appreciate his insights. And some people probably thought he was a bit left field, and I guess for the guys that know me and know what I do here, they probably think I'm probably in the next ballpark. But if you keep, like I said, if you keep doing the same thing, you can't expect different results. So you've got to think outside the box and do things differently if you want to create change. So yeah, Pete was really good for me and gave me the confidence that, hang on, there are people that think differently. I think, you can get taught the textbook side of things at TAFE, which is good to have that foundation. But in the real world, things are different sometimes, and you got to adapt and you got to change. And
is there something in that though from within you, and then transferring that into an apprentice, to being open-minded or understanding that there are other ways to look at things, and being open-minded enough to go, I might have always done it this way, or I've always thought this way, I've always been taught this way. And then when someone shows you something else, to go, hey, you know what? Not the initial knee jerk to go, well, that's not right. Instead, to go, okay, let's learn more. I want to see why. What does that equal? Because I think a lot of people's knee jerk reaction will get in the way of them learning other ways.
Yeah, look, I think, it's funny answering what turf species do you like best. I don't dislike bent grass or cooch or anything else. It's, all grass is good in the right place. I've just got a fascination for poa, but I just think that, I don't want to use the word brainwash. I think that's too heavy, but I think we're so indoctrinated into thinking we've got to be pure bent, and some clubs can't afford it. Some clubs don't have the resources to do it. So I like to train my guys, and like I said, I've got a qualified guy that hasn't been in the golf course industry for 20 years, but he's brilliant. He's been working on like soccer fields, cricket fields, etc. Then I've got an apprentice that's coming through, and I would say my apprentice has completely been taught opposite, backwards, completely wrong to the TAFE system, in a sense. Whenever he goes to TAFE, he's always saying, oh, but we do it like this, and why would you do it like that? And yeah, it sparks a lot of conversation, which is cool. But yeah, I'm trying to show him that you can think outside the box, and you don't always have to just do what's always been done. Or I don't know, Steve. I think I've answered it, but yeah.
No, I think you have. I suppose what I was alluding to is that it takes something within the person to go and be actively open-minded, because that's sort of what I was trying to get across. Is you can be presented those things, and some people probably don't even realise that they're shutting those ideas out. So I think to be open-minded enough, and I think it's important that as a young person coming through learning your trade, that there's so many different ways to do different things. And to be open-minded enough to go, what I've been shown here is one way. What I've been shown here by this person or by these groups of people is 1 or 5 different ways. But there's infinite different ways. And the more you see and the more you talk about, the more you learn.
Yeah, well, that's right. Exactly. Like, there's so many different contributing factors that make certain things work better than others. But then there's limitations as well. So, yeah, I always try to think outside the box. I want to produce the best course I can for my membership with the resources I have available. And I want my staff to think, how can we be more efficient, or how can we do things better? And we'll speak more about that later. But yeah, I don't want my apprentice to be a 2-dimensional apprentice. I want him to be 3-dimensional.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep. Even 4 or 5. The conversations that you and I have had, I know what you meant, but I know what you're saying, 100%.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I think I'd be doing him an injustice if I just let him roll through and go through the motions, and this is what you get taught, and yep, this is how it is. No, I want you to think outside the box, and how can you achieve something?
Yeah.
How can you make that grass do something that it's not designed to do, or yeah, whatever it may be. So I really want to equip my apprentices and my staff to be able to think for themselves, and to be able to come up with different ways to achieve results.
Critical thinking and out of the box. Yep.
Yep.
Be creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, using what you've seen, what you've learnt, what you know of, and what you don't know of, and trying to come up with a different recipe and try something different. Be creative. Come up with a different way to get to a different result, not the same way to try and get a different result, because that doesn't. Which we've learnt that doesn't happen. You can't do it.
Exactly. But that's right. And you don't know what you don't know. You can't know something that you haven't been exposed to, and that's why I think it's good if you can expose yourself to as many different situations, golf courses, different people, different ways of thinking. You try to build that database inside yourself, and when you get into a pinch or a pickle or you need to make a decision, hopefully you can draw on multiple experiences to make the right one in the long run, if that makes sense. It may not seem right at the start, or if I said to someone, I'm doing this, they might go, you're mad. But if we can get the result through a different way of thinking that someone hasn't seen before, well, you might, I'm not saying you're going to change the industry, but you might give smaller clubs with less resources more advantage, if that makes sense.
It does, 100%. I like what you said there, and I'm just going to go down this part, if you don't mind, because I got told that I was mad on a few occasions. So I got told that I was doing things that, as a superintendent, that's not right. That's wrong. You're mad. That's not going to work. Do you like I loved being told that. I got to be honest. I love being told that because it meant that I was breaking the mold to do something different to get to somewhere no one had been before at the course that I was a super at. Do you like that? Have you ever been told that?
Oh, yeah, I've been told it a fair bit. Look, you hear it often enough and you start questioning yourself, Steve.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
And I've got certain guys in the industry that I touch base with, on a more regular basis. And I like to think they're pretty level-headed. I've got Pete down at Federal, Jake at Elanora. They're two guys that I lean on quite a bit with personal stuff or questions, or I think they're producing good surfaces themselves, and they've got a good critical way of thinking, and they might have more limitations than me, and they can't adventure as much with chemistry maybe or whatever, because their places have got to be in near perfect condition year round because that's what their membership demands. But I can test the boundaries a bit more, and if I burn a bit of grass here or there, it is what it is. But no, I rely on those kind of guys quite a bit because they're in the industry. They know what we go through. They know what the day-to-day grind is. But yet they're trustworthy guys, and yeah, I just like running it past them. But yeah, you hear, I have guests out here at times, and you show them what you're doing, and you talk about things, and they look at you like you got two heads, or the greens probably aren't going to make it past 3 p.m. But sometimes you just need someone to sit in your corner and say, no, it's okay. You've thought about this logically, and you've put all the situations on paper, and you've double checked everything, and there is nothing that's going to just pop up and get you out of nowhere. It's you've thought about this, and it will come. The surface or whatever will come, but you just need to be patient and work towards that goal. So, yeah, I have been told that, and do I like being told that? I don't know if I like it.
In a professional, like in a work sense of the stuff that you're doing, pushing boundaries.
I like the fact that, maybe I'm pushing boundaries and maybe I'm opening Pandora's box a little bit, but I just want to educate people and staff, etc., to achieve really cool things by not doing what everyone does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tricky one. You got to keep it in moderation.
Yes. Yep. You're not a law unto yourself either.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't just go, like you said, those examples of other clubs, those Pete Pete and Jake at those respective clubs, that they're probably a little bit tighter, like you say, boxed in a little bit more in terms of what their expectations are, that they don't have the freedom to do a few things. I was very much the other extreme. I had freedom to do whatever, and that's probably why I was doing it. And you're probably more in the middle.
Sometimes on my nursery surfaces, I'll go out there and try to kill it. I will. I'll go out there and say, well, what rate do I need to kill this grass? Because then if I can find that, I know that if I never go near it, well, I should never have a problem. Or I might go out and spray something on a 30-degree day in full sunlight. And I'll say, right, let's see if we bronze up here. Or, yeah, I look for those things, and I try to build as much knowledge as I can, especially with chemistry, because chemistry is probably the most dangerous thing we do on the golf course, because mixing different things together, etc., pHs, all this stuff comes into it. But yeah, I push the limits quite hard at different times to just try to prevent that mistake happening on the greens or on the tees or on the fairways. Because I'm dealing with, obviously, South African cooch, which is another pretty cool grass.
Come on, but it's the best. I'll argue your power.
Well, I do keep power out of it.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. But like South African cooch, who do I call on for guidance in that regard?
100%. Where do you go there?
I know there's clubs with it, but from my understanding, most clubs are doing away with it. Whenever they returf, they go to the Santa Ana or Kikuyu or whatever they choose, but they're not replenishing it with South African. My fairways are probably 80%, 90%
more, yeah.
South African and 10% weed. Which we've been trying to clean up now for the past 2 years, and we've got to that stage now where we're 90-10, 80-20, however you want to look at it. But I don't really know anyone that has managed South African on a day-to-day basis, year in, year out, -9 to 35 degrees. And yeah, so I'm learning everything for myself and building as much knowledge as I can, for example.
Exactly. And you're quite right. It's a very unique situation with your fairways with the South African cooch, because I don't know of anyone that's got it, that much South African cooch that is fostering and caring for it to continue to provide it as an excellent surface en masse, the way that you've got it there. I know that we had it in a number of clubs in the Blue Mountains, but it's basically all grown out and being overtaken by Kikuyu mostly. And there's a few, I know Wentworth around the corner from you has some, and Bathurst has some. But generally speaking, it's basically all but been, I suppose, fostered out instead of fostered in. So you're one of probably the only person who's got a turf surface the size that you have of South African cooch in Australia. And that said, I know that from my own research, and I want to mention this anyway, is that as far as I can tell, you've got the oldest stand and the largest stand of South African cooch in Australia. And it's pushing 100 years old.
Yeah.
So that's the research that I've done that I know you and I have spoken about. But that's something there. Who do you talk to? You've got to work that out yourself. There's not even, you read the labels of chemistries. South African cooch, there's nothing on there. It doesn't happen. So what do you do there?
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's turf, right? But in terms of the specifics of it, you don't know what's going to affect it and what's not, in a sense.
No, exactly. Exactly right.
Because it's just under the turf banner, but like Buffalo gets affected by certain things, and Queensland Blue gets affected by certain herbicides and that sort of stuff. You don't know what's going to happen to South Africa unless you go out there to spray your weeds.
Yeah, well, 100%, Steve. So you don't know unless you do some trial work.
And that's right. That's what you've got to do. So when you say pushing the boundaries, you're not pushing the boundaries in anything that's untoward. And I want to make that very clear from anyone listening and from the club's perspective. It's not anything that you aren't allowed to do that's off-label or anything like that. It's about understanding what results will come from using those herbicides and different applications in different situations under the licensing of the label. So I just want to make that very clear as well. So, yeah, you're doing things out there that you got to, because without pushing the boundaries and without testing and trialing and learning things, you don't know what you can and can't do.
No,
you've got to trial things. You've got to learn.
Yeah, there's no point waiting and trialling it before a tournament.
that is really putting your hands together and hoping for the best.
That's right. Exactly. So yeah, anyway,
yeah.
I think I've taken us off topic there, mate. But,
no, not at all. I'm happy to go down that road because it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So
you're
trying to get us back on topic.
Yep, you're at Muirfield.
Yep.
Peter Watts.
Yeah. Peter Watts, completing my associate diploma. I took a job at Elanora Country Club up on the Northern Beaches.
Okay, yep.
I went up to Elanora, who Jake was there at the time, actually. That's where I knew Jake from TAFE, but I worked with him at Elanora.
Okay, and Elanora is a high-profile, very private golf club here in Sydney, very well known. So you've gone into that.
Yeah, so Dan Cook was there.
Different beast.
Super at the time.
Different beast to Muirfield?
Yeah, it's slightly different. It opened my eyes. Going from Kikuyu Power Bent to Cooch and Pure Bent. So I was there for about a year and a half, roughly. That was really good time. Learned a lot there. Obviously, a lot more staff. It was really cool to see just how precise we could get with like the little 1%ers. And even plugging out power, you'd have 4 or 5 guys plugging power out of a green.
Wow.
Any one afternoon, you'd have 6 to 8 guys walking down a fairway with bottles, spraying weeds. It was really, really intense and really, really cool. I enjoyed my time there, and again, just building all that knowledge up and building a data bank so you can reflect on it later on in your career.
What was it like? Sorry, mate, to jump in. What was it like having different expectations at a place like Elanora compared to a Muirfield? And by that I mean membership. Yeah,
it was interesting. Muirfield obviously was good in its own right. It's a different golf course for one, but the membership obviously were paying a lot more money, and they demanded a weed-free golf course as much as humanly possible. So you'd be doing a lot more preventative herbicide spraying, and you wouldn't want to see the weeds. You don't want to be spraying post, but that's just part of the beast. You've got to do it. But it's always prevent. Don't even let it pop up, whether it be weeds, disease, insects. So it was. You always had to be 2 steps ahead, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot more work in that way, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so, because you got to be very prepared, have very good scheduling, and then you've obviously got to have the manpower and the labour to constantly get sprayers out there. So I think Dan said to us, he goes, every day you don't spray, something's coming in. So it was like that spray rig should be going out every day because, either a seed's flying over the fence or there's insects flying over and moths flying over at night, etc. So, every day you don't spray, you're susceptible. So, it was much more intense. It was a huge beast, and it was really cool to be exposed to.
Yeah, sure.
So I finished my associate diploma there, and then started my diploma.
Right.
And ended up taking, at the time, it was a foreman / 3IC role at Pennant Hills.
Okay.
And after about 3 weeks, I was promoted to assistant at Pennant Hills.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
Yeah, so I was at Pennant Hills with Richard Kirkby at the time, and obviously that was different again. It was kind of somewhere in between those 2 clubs, but we had a water treatment plant on site.
Yeah, that's the first in Australia to do so. Your own private water treatment plant.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's a pretty cool thing. You can harvest your own water, but obviously there's a lot of maintenance to go into that as well. So,
yeah, no doubt.
That was that confused the head a little bit, learning all that.
But again, something else, right? Something different. Another way of doing things, another way of irrigating a golf course.
Well, it was too, and you got to remember, again, if you don't know, you don't know, but you got to think too, and I didn't realise this until I'd been there for a little bit, but every time you irrigate, depending on what's coming through your system in that treatment plant, how many parts per million of nitrogen are going out. So we could dial that a little bit and change it slightly, but we ended up fertilising a lot less at Pennant Hills and just living on growth regulators.
Because the nitrogen was already in the water.
That's correct, yeah. So we were basically foliar fertilising every time we watered.
Oh, wow. That's non-stop growing.
Yeah, exactly. So
you got to slow that puppy down.
Well, you constantly fertilise, you're creating thatch issues, not just on your greens, but like your fairways are getting spongy and then the cylinder mowers start chattering and start
bouncing and ribboning and
scalping and stuff. So like it's a whole different way of maintaining the golf course. So yeah, three different places, three completely different experiences.
And three well experienced and very well known superintendents too.
Yes.
So that's a lot of knowledge that you were working through and listening to and being involved with. Big learning experience.
Yep. No, there was heaps of learning. Like everything, and like myself, I'm not perfect, but things what to do and what not to do. You try to learn both sides of the coin. And if you can learn from someone else's mistake, you don't want to see someone else make a mistake. But if you can learn from someone else's mistake, well, you haven't made that mistake in a sense. So, and I've made plenty. But that's how you learn, right? You learn by dropping the ball. And that's your biggest teacher. Unfortunately, like you can read things on paper and stuff, but it might say you don't spray this or you don't do that. And you get closer and closer to that edge, and until you finally get stung, then that's when it's an imprint on your mind and you go, right, I'm not doing that again. So, if you can see someone else do it, not that you want to see them do it, but you can learn from that as well. And there were times where mistakes were made, or not even mistakes. I remember one time at Elanora, we were spraying tupper sand around the greens to keep the cooch out of the bent.
Yep.
And a couple of weeks later, after we sprayed, we progressively saw the ring get worse around the greens. And we were like, what's going on here? Like, we haven't refilled the tank. Anyway, after a lot of diagnostics, the pump went in the oil went in the pump, and the oil found its way through into the spray mix. And
no way.
The worse the pump got, the more oil went out in the spray.
The worse it was,
Exactly right. So
wow, what a unique problem, unique issue.
Yeah, and we were all bedazzled because we double checked rates. It was very, very tight at Elanora with the spraying. It was, you couldn't just grab a bottle of this and pour this in and see you later. Everything was really, really tight. So for something like that to happen, it was really strange. And one of the diaphragms went and a little bit of oil got through, and then more and more. And like I said, it got worse and worse. So
wow.
We had to fix that up. But it's like I said, you can always learn, and you learn from the good times. But I think sometimes when things aren't so good, they can be your biggest teachers. So
and like you said, they're learning from being around other mistakes that haven't been made by you, or not necessarily made by anyone, but accidents do happen as well, and that sort of stuff. I think being aware to learn in those moments as well, not just not think about it and go, that's a problem, we'll fix it and move on. It's to understand and maybe ask a few questions to work out so you do remember why that happened, even though you weren't at the reins of it all.
Absolutely. No. I agree completely. And like I said, I've made plenty of mistakes myself.
So you've made that, gone through some pretty high-level places, learning lots. Where do things take you after your time at Pennant Hills? How long were you at Pennant Hills for?
Oh, that's a good question. 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
As assistant, wasn't it?
Yes, as assistant to Richard, yep.
So there's a lot of weight on your shoulders there, because Pennant Hills has got quite the name as well. That's a pretty important role in any club, let alone a place like Pennant. So you're riding high as part of the leadership team and the senior parts of the on course, the leadership group. What was it like having that responsibility finally at a place like Pennant Hills? That's a lot of responsibility. You finally got your hands, I suppose, dirty in a sense in leading the team, management, working out ways you want to manage people. There's lots of things that go in there. What was that like?
Yeah, look, it was really good. I learned a lot. Like I said, that club's probably in between Muirfield and Elanora, so we had about 15 staff.
Yep.
So yeah, a few more bodies. Obviously, the more bodies, the more personalities, the more more things that can go wrong if you go about things the wrong way. So it was interesting, and it was a good opportunity to learn and obviously better myself too with managing people.
Yep. Because that's a hard thing when you're a greenkeeper. You're not thinking about managing people. You're thinking about being a greenkeeper. It comes along in your career and you go, oh, how did I get here? Right, this is part of the gig. Wasn't ready for that. But you'd done some studies. Does that help along the way as well?
Yeah, so
the diploma?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I've done associate and diploma. They didn't really talk about staff management to a degree, like, yeah, resource management and that kind of stuff, but not how to have conversations with people. But I always go back to Steve's, like, we're human beings. If you can't speak to someone like a human being, well, then there's probably a bigger issue.
Mate, there's a lot of people that don't even realise that. That line alone means a great deal in a workplace. On any side of the fence you're on, whether it's colleague to colleague or member to staff member or administration or the leadership, in a club, the hierarchy, talking to other staff as well. That line, we're all human beings. Not a lot of people think about that or treat people with respect, do they?
No, they don't, mate. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into names or anything, obviously, but I've seen some pretty ordinary things throughout my career at different places, and they might be some of the not so good things that I've learnt. And
yeah,
I've got a template in my mind. I'm not going to do that. So
yep.
Yeah, I try to treat everyone with respect, treat them how I want to be treated in a sense. But yeah, if I always say I can't do what I do on the golf course by myself. Like I can cut greens for 4 hours and then start cutting fairways for 4 hours and then my day's done. Although I do a lot more hours than that. But I mean, you can't get everything done by yourself. So you need a team around you. And if you treat that team with respect, I think that's a huge part of getting them on board and having them take ownership of the golf course. And like I said before, I let my guys decide, what do you want to do? Do you want to stripe fairways or do you want to go out in half moon? And they do both and look at it and go, nah, striping looks so much better. I'm like, sweet. Like, it doesn't bother me. Who cares? Yeah. The grass is 10 mil, 20 mil, whatever. If we've got 100% coverage and there's minimal weeds in there and it's all good. Well, if that's what floats the members' boat and my staff, they get a kick out of seeing the stripes, well, that's fine. I'm happy to go with that. So, yeah, I think treating people how you treat people is a huge part of our job. And, I've always been a bit of a people person. While I was at Pennant Hills, I took on a teaching role at TAFE.
Okay.
So after Jim Hull stepped back from the diploma class, I guess he kind of nominated me, which was flattering, but I'm not, they're big shoes to fill, and I didn't really fill them, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I taught at TAFE for about a year and a half as well, in the block release.
Right.
I think that's part of why Jim stepped down, because it went from being a weekly class on a Wednesday afternoon to being block release. So we'd go through the course online on the computer, and then we would have 2 face-to-faces every 6 months.
Right. Okay.
And one of those face-to-faces, I always tried to do a excursion. Get the guys to another golf course or another environment where they can see and hear from someone else. And I actually went down to the Sydney Uni plant pathology lab with Jim, and he had a chat to the guys for me, and that was really insightful. And then we've been out to other golf courses, etc. So, yeah, I was just trying to give those guys as much exposure as possible, I guess. But yeah, I guess I just kind of click with people to a degree. I know not everyone likes me. You know, there's people that I'd prefer to hang out with rather than others. But I mean, you know, if you treat people with respect and you try to teach them as much as you can and you give them the time of day, well, I think you're probably 90% in the right direction. So, yeah, I've been fortunate to be in those situations where that TAFE teaching probably helped me and how to relate to different people. So doing that while I was at Pennant Hills definitely helped with that crew. And, yeah, I built some really good relationships there. But, yeah, the crew were really good. We got in, worked hard, and there were days where we'd do a lot of overtime, and we did a lot of projects in-house. So, yeah, it was a really, really good experience, to be honest.
Yeah, awesome. That's so good. So we've learnt that where you're going with your career, you're stepping up, you're doing all sorts of stuff. You're really heading in the direction to becoming a superintendent. How do you step from Pennant Hills and where do you go?
So, yeah, there's no secret there. I was made redundant from Pennant Hills.
Okay.
They were going through some financial things
Yep.
at a certain time, and for whatever reason, I was one of the newer staff on the books. They had a lot of old heads there, which you know, obviously the longer you're at somewhere, the more it costs to move you on. So unfortunately, I was the pick of the litter.
Yep.
So, you know, I was probably getting pretty comfortable at Pennant Hills, to be honest. So it was probably a blessing in disguise, and I believe everything happens for a reason. So it's a bit of a shock when it first happens to you. I don't know how many people have been made redundant. But
well, I've lost my job when the club went broke. I don't know what it's like being made redundant, but I know it's like to turn up at work and go, well, you don't have a job. No one does.
Well, that's right.
And I can laugh about that. I didn't laugh on the day, but because I had to tell my staff that. Anyway, that's another story. This is not about me, but I can't imagine that. No, let me rephrase that. I imagine that was an extremely hard day.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock. And yeah, it was hard. It was, I think my wife Shannon was 2 months out from giving birth to our eldest daughter. So,
wow.
You know, things have been thrown up in the air, and, you know, you know, most people have got families, and, you know, I realise guys go overseas and stuff and your families aren't there, but a lot of people, obviously, if you get desperate, you can kind of rely on your family to help you out and stuff. And yeah, that wasn't so much of an issue, but it was more of a pride thing for me. You know, you've gone off and started your own family and you want to support them. And so anyway, I was like, oh, nothing's going to happen if you just sit on the couch at home. So I made some phone calls, and we went to Royal Sydney. I went over to Royal Sydney with Steve Marsden and Adam Marchand and Jake Gibbs as his assistants. So I knew both of those guys through TAFE, and obviously Jake through Elanora. But yeah, they were good enough to put my name forward and get me in there for an interview with Steve. And
wow.
I knew they had an Australian Open coming up in about a year's time. So I thought, I haven't done a major tournament. That's probably something to tick off and get involved in. So yeah, I went to Royal Sydney, mate.
That's another step, mate. I don't know. This is unbelievable. What a step! Look, and I've got to say, I met Steve Marsden once, and or a couple of times actually, but he was so generous to me when I went there, and I always say this to anyone because he just did so much for me when I went to visit, and he showed me around Royal Sydney. Never been there before. He is just one of the most genuine people of the industry, Kiwi, and now he's gone back to New Zealand. But geez, what a lovely man.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. I speak to him probably once a month.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's another guy that I probably lean on a little bit. Yeah, he's just a genuine guy, and you can be open and honest with him, and he'll tell you his honest opinion, and that's what I like about Jake and Pete as well. They don't sugarcoat anything. You know, if you're doing the wrong thing, they'll tell you.
Yeah. You got to have people like that in your life, though, don't you?
Yeah. Or if they honestly don't think something's going to work, you know, there's no point sugarcoating stuff. You know, if you're not doing something right and people come in and say, "Oh yeah, you're going down the right track," that's doing a disservice. So Yeah, no, Steve's really good. He's helped me out a lot, and he gave me a lot of responsibility there at Royal Sydney. I wasn't one of the assistants or the foreman or anything like that. I was just a greenkeeper, but I did a couple of major returf jobs before the Australian Open.
Yeah, right.
So that was pretty cool to get them done, and for them not to show up on TV. That was nice. But it was a good crew at Royal Sydney. Again, it was different. It was 53 staff, I think it was, with
Far out.
I can't remember the exact numbers, but like
Wow.
4 or 5 arborists,
Yeah,
gardeners.
right.
You had the northern area, the lawn bowls, the tennis courts, and then you had the golf course, then you had the short course. You had 3 mechanics. It was a big engine. So it was eye opening.
Another big learning experience, right? Different people, different course, had done it a different way. Lots leading up to. What year was that for the Oz Open, mate? Can I ask?
That was the 2016 Australian Open.
Okay,
with Jordan Spieth winning in the playoffs.
Spiethy over here. Wow. So that's a first tournament. What was that whole experience like? Doing that work, leading in. You got a couple of turf projects right on the death knell of hosting the tournament, and then you're prepping for the tournament, being part of it. What was all that like?
Yeah, it was really cool. Obviously being there with Adam and Jake, being their TAFE peers. It was really nice to have that direction, have that goal, and try to help each other out as best we could. Like, those boys were doing huge hours, and just to have the doubt around the industry. I guess there were, it was a colder spring than usual, and I would say that there were people out there that didn't think we'd be ready, we wouldn't present, but we got over the line but it was amazing to see what goes into it. Just the resources that you can throw at something like that to not fail. This is the standard we need, and we need to get there. So whatever it takes, kind of thing. So yeah, it was really cool. It definitely helped me out in the long run. Later on, we'll talk about my time at Bonnie Doon, but we hosted some tournaments there, and that experience at Royal Sydney really helped me out there, and it was really cool to be a part of. Big crew. I love long days, short sleeps. I just seem to thrive on it. It's a bit of a sicko like that, but 14, 16 hour days, whatever it is, and then 3-4 hours sleep. You get up and do it again. It's just really exciting, really good. I love those moments. I love those experiences, and especially when everything falls into place. You've done the prep work, you've done all the hard work, you've ticked all the boxes, and then to see it all fall into place, which it doesn't always do. It's really rewarding and really, really, really encouraging.
And you're one of the cogs in the overall machine to do all that for the tournament. It must have been a pretty impressive feeling as a team once that final putt has gone in and the winner's announced. What's that feeling like? Is that you kind of like just you need a beer and have a relax, or is it just like everyone's patting each other on the back? A lot of self-pride? What's that like?
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve. Like, I remember standing next to the green. We had a little spot cut out in between 2 bunkers under a grandstand where the greenkeepers were allowed to stay, and it was brilliant. That ball went in. We did the presentation, and then Jordan was good enough to come over and have some photos with us. And it was, you look around and everyone chipped in to get there. And it didn't matter if you were the assistant, the foreman or anything. Like, obviously the assistants do a lot more work, but like, you still need all the other guys to do their part to make the machine run. And everyone everyone was really overjoyed with the whole thing. And, I made some good friends there. They had a lot of volunteers. They had 53 on staff, and I think we had about 30 volunteers, so we had about 80 on site. So I've still got some good friends, and I've got good friends in Melbourne and overseas, and it was a really good experience. But the next day you felt empty. You felt really, really empty. That's
the ultimate high, right? Is the peak of the tournament, day 4.
Yeah.
And then where to after that?
Absolutely. I can't describe it. It's you felt lost.
Yeah.
you felt really lost. And, everyone kind of had a day off the next week, whether it be Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday. And, the guys that worked the Monday, you came in and the grandstands were empty. There was corporate golf out there, like the sponsors and all that, but it was just the feeling had been like just sucked out of the balloon. It was like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? It was really scary, actually. Looking back on it, but obviously over time you kind of get back in the groove and get back in the grind and you start producing again. But to get it to that level, which is unachievable on a day-to-day basis year round, without throwing all those resources and all those man hours at it, the course comes back to a standard which is still very good. Don't get me wrong, but it's where it could be, and it just flattens you a little bit.
And it's not like you got to wait 12 months before it's back again because it's going somewhere else.
Yeah, well, that's right. I think
so.
Probably the Aussie or the Lakes is the only one that really go back to back.
Yep. There you go. Wow, what an experience. And, of course, Adam Marchant, you were talking about, is now the superintendent of the new version of Royal Sydney. So we've got a lot to talk about there. I've had Adam on in the past on the podcast, but that's who you're talking about. He took over from Steve. But what a wonderful experience. And those people you knew, great friends and people that you'd been friends with before, and you got new friends out of that tournament. There's a lot in that time period at Royal Sydney. And then can you tell us then how you moved from there?
Yeah, so... I guess obviously a big club like Royal Sydney, they've got 2 assistants. They had 2 foremen, 5 or 6 senior greenkeepers, and another 5 or 6 greenkeepers, and then you went into apprentices, labourers, etc. So the room for movement was probably limited, realistically. So you kind of keep an eye out, and a role came up at Bonnie Doon as the spray technician. So I've always liked the spraying side of things. I think you can do so much with turf with spraying.
Yep.
And it's such a precise task. And if you're good at it, I honestly believe you can get a job anywhere. So I applied for that, and I was fortunate enough to get that role. It was a bit of a strange situation. I interviewed under Justin Bradbury and accepted the role and everything, and then Justin ended up leaving, and that is what it is. I wasn't involved in that, but I kind of rang the club and said, well, what's going on? And they said, oh, look, Justin's moved on. Cam's going to look after the golf course for the time being. The role's still there if you'd like it. And I said, okay. I probably need to come and speak to Cam, if I turn up and he doesn't want me, it's probably not going to be real good. So
that's a fair point.
I went in and caught up with Cam, and he was actually the only qualified guy there at the stage. So he had 16 staff, and he was the only qualified guy. Sorry, I lie. Marty Dyball was also qualified, but he was in the irrigationist role, so he wasn't greenkeeping as such. He would help the guys out if they were desperate, but he was overseeing all the irrigation. So,
right.
Yeah, Cam didn't really have another greenkeeper on crew as such qualified. So I asked him if he wanted me, and he said absolutely. So anyway, I made the move over there and joined that management team of Cam, myself, Brad Glenn, who's the foreman there. He's been there 30 years now, and I would say he's been assistant there on multiple occasions in interim periods, and he's very, very solid guy. So, and with Marty as well, at the time being the irrigationist, Cam did have good guys around him, but it was all new. There were a lot of moving parts. They're trying to get stage 3 grown in for opening. A lot was going on. So I kind of just went in and said, I'll do whatever you want. I'm not going to butt in and try to tell you what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. I'm just a labourer, basically. You just tell me what you want. So yeah, Cam used me as he saw fit, and we tried to get the South Paddock grown in, and then I think I was there for about 2 or 3 months, and Cam was going overseas. So anyway, big deal for him, obviously. He's I guess, trialling for a supers role. or on probation, whatever you want to call it. He's got Brad there and myself, one guy that officially has no qualifications but is very good, and one new guy that he doesn't know if he can trust. So he put me in charge of the agronomy and the spraying, and put Brad in charge of the crew, basically, just so I wasn't distracted or taken away from, managing any fungus or insects or anything like that. So, we managed the place while he was away for 3-4 weeks, whatever it was. And when he came back, I think he was quite impressed with the place that he promoted me to his assistant. So
Yeah, right. Wow.
yeah, I took that assistant's role and, worked with Cam for 6.5 years.
Yeah, right. Okay. I must have popped in there because I met Cam there as I was working locally on a at a property, and I knew that you were building. Was it the first? I remember seeing the first hole was being dug up, being rebuilt at the time as part of the rebuild.
Yep.
So
that would have been stage 4.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Because I hadn't seen the earlier stuff. It was the last stage, wasn't it?
Stage 4 was the last stage.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was just, yeah. Yep.
1 to 17.
Yeah. That's it. Along the road that goes to the clubhouse.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, no, there you go. Okay.
So,
right,
yeah, I was at Bonnie Doon then. So, and also at this stage too, I finished my TAFE teaching while I was at Royal Sydney. That came to an end. I wanted to focus more on my greenkeeping career, I guess.
Yep.
And with the tournament and everything. So I stopped that, but then maybe, I don't know, got bored, might not be the right word, but I decided to pursue some more study. So I went down to Charles Sturt University in Wagga Wagga.
Yeah, right.
Did some block release stuff. So I did plant biology.
Wow.
To learn a little bit more about plants and how they interact with their environment around them and the soils and the chemistry. And I did an introduction into chemistry. So I didn't finish that agricultural degree, but I've done a couple of subjects that really interested me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I did that as I started Bonnie Doon, I guess I was doing that. So
yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Is that what made you choose to do that? Because that's an extra lot of stuff that's in a very particular, like you said, you're interested in plants and all that sort of thing, but there's a lot more in choose. One thing to say I'm interested in, it's another thing to go and say I'm going to go and do a degree. You know what I mean? At a university.
Oh, 100%. And I didn't finish it.
But
it just got a bit all too much with 2 kids and being an assistant.
But it takes a lot to start it.
Hours a week.
It takes a lot to start it, to say you're going to go and start. I mean, there's a lot there.
Well, it does, I went down there and had a look around the campus and did a bit of an information day and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it took a fair few hours out of my life to get to that point where I accepted and went down there. But it was really.
Has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
Craig Geeve, Duntry Super.
Now, mate, I apologise because we have just had some technical difficulties, so we'll try and jump back on track here. And I do apologise to everyone listening for a little bit of a random intermission that you won't have heard much of, but we have just paused for about 15 minutes while I sort my stuff out and get my shit back together. So, now, mate, we were talking, you're doing your degree. There's a lot into going and starting a degree. Whether you finished it or not, it's another thing. But like you mentioned, your family commitments, life was pretty hectic, and that meant that you didn't go down the path of finishing it. But just getting to the process of starting a degree like that takes a lot of effort, and you're backing yourself into doing something like that. There's a lot in there for me.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. There is. I guess it's always easy to find excuses why not to do things. And like I said, I haven't finished it, but I did the subjects that I saw the most benefit in.
Yep.
And I went and got the subjects ticked off that I thought would help me the most.
Yeah, okay.
In turf management. So
interesting.
the plan probably wasn't to do it part-time for 6 years. That's a long time, but to get 2 subjects done in a year and 2 subjects that I thought would give me a huge helping hand in making decisions. It was worth my time.
Yeah. Okay. Very good, mate. Very impressive strings to the bow as you continue to just make a hell of a career, mate. This is very impressive to hear all these details about your career path. And so you're Bonnie Doon doing that, started that. How does things progress?
Yeah, look, Bonnie Doon was brilliant. 6.5 years it was roughly. We did 3 player series events.
Oh, the WebEx Player Series, yes, the TPS.
Yeah, we did 3 of them. So that's where obviously the Australian Open was a massive part of it, and then to a lesser degree the IK Harrisons at Elanora, which I didn't speak about, but that's probably their biggest tournament. Those kind of things help me assist Cam and support him, and direct the team, and produce some really good surfaces that we're proud of. So the first WebEx was a learning curve for everyone, because I think Cam and I were the only ones that had done a tournament, maybe Marty at the Lakes back in the day. Pretty much we're the only ones from memory that had done a tournament. And then the second one was the one where we got a copious amounts of rain. It was, I think we had 500 mil in the week leading in, and I think we had 100 mil on the weekend. And
it was insane.
We only had one delay, I think.
That was wild. I went to the first year you had it. I was there at Bonnie Doon. We were walking around Savannah. Was in a pram. And we were taking the stroller around, and because it's a very different type of tournament, it's men and women competing against each other for the same prize. It's very, very different first time around, because there was only a couple of them in the first year, and you guys were one of those couple. Yeah,
that's right, we were. I think, I probably should have done some research before this, but maybe Rosebud?
Yeah, Rosebud down in Vic had it, and then you guys had it in Sydney.
And then I can't remember where it went after us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I do, but there was 3 the first year, I think it was.
Anyway, the coast or something. But anyway,
by the by, first time around, different type of event, which was breaking the mold from the norm. It's good to have it in those sort of next level down from courses that probably can't ever really host a full size tournament because of space and land and crowds and all that. So good to have it. Good to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was really, really cool, and really different with men and women too. Like you might have 4 or 5 team platforms on a whole, but sometimes they're different paths for the men and the women, and then you got to try to get the distance and correlate that. And that was more up to the event organizer. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how you kind of piece that together, because you don't want to make it too easy for one gender over the other. But then you've also got to take, things like wind, if you're hitting into wind, or it's just, there's so much to think about. But on our side of things, we managed the turf and presented the surfaces, and the guys did a fantastic job. And I've still got a really good relationship with the guys there. So really good, long relationships were built there. And I really enjoyed my time at Bonnie Doon. It was actually hard to walk away, if I'm being honest.
Wow. There you go. That's great to hear, though, that it meant that much to you in your career. That's very good.
No, I did, and I still speak to multiple guys at Bonnie Doon on probably a 3 or 4 weekly period. There'd be 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 guys that I'm in contact with pretty regularly.
Yeah, so, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Good working relationships.
Absolutely.
So your time to Bonnie Doon, okay, so you mentioned there that it was hard to walk away. What was the catalyst, if I can ask you that without being rude? Up to you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just trying to think back, I guess, on those raw emotions at the time. But it was interesting. Like Cam and I worked really close together, and I can say I gave him 110%. I bent over backwards to make sure that place ran really well, and he looked after me. So we had a lot of trust in each other, and there were some hard times, obviously, like there always is in that, but we always had each other's back. And it got to the point where maybe getting bored isn't the right word, but I don't know. Just I had this feeling.
It doesn't
inside me
challenge you anymore, maybe? Is that potentially what it is?
Potentially. I think because we're dealing with Mother Nature, there's always that possibility. But yeah, I just got to this point where I was maybe not stagnant, but yeah, I had this feeling that I've never had before. And again, I leaned on some of my close friends in the industry, and they said, "Oh, you're ready for a supers gig." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It was, some people say I want a supers gig before I'm 30. Others say I don't want one. Others say it will come when it comes. And yeah, so and for me, it wasn't. It was just always a thing that if it's going to happen, it will happen. It's you make your own luck in life to a degree, but yeah, I'm not one to push hard in a certain direction. Like if a door slams closed on me, I'm not going to try to bash it down. It's everything happens for a reason. So I was at the stage where I was like, I sat down with Cam and had an honest conversation. I said, mate, I think I'm ready for a role. I think I'm going to start applying. And he said, yeah, I support you, mate. It's good. So I did up my resume and stuff. And anyway, I've always said that I'd probably go to 2 country towns to live in, and that would be probably Mudgee and Orange.
Okay.
They just appeal to me. I've done a lot of half marathon racing in my career, and Mudgee hosts a really good event. So I'm pretty familiar with Mudgee, and it's a beautiful spot. And then Orange is a good community, and my wife's got family here, and so that's sort of the 2 towns that appealed to me. And my brother has a merino farm up in between Tamworth and Walker, so I often go up there for shearing, which is kind of like renovations for us.
Yep.
It's kind of when everything's happening and you pull everyone in for a week, and it's a really good, enjoyable week, long hours, long days, and you get the job done, and you catch up with people that you haven't seen for a year. So I've been going up there now for probably 6 years, I guess. So I help out. I don't shear. I've had a crack, but you'd be waiting a while.
No jumpers coming from you.
That's right. Maybe a beanie, but
pair of socks.
Yeah. But no, I go up there and help my brother out, and it's really good to catch up with him and mum and dad, and as I said, the other people up there, like the shearers and the wool classes, etc. So I do what I can, and we're starting to slowly but surely over the years, we've been taking more and more data on each individual sheep and on each individual fleece. And I guess I can relate to this because of what I do on the turf, but my brother wants to get, such a fine line of fleece that, this one's not good enough for X, Y, or Z reason. It's a cull or, sell, whatever, doesn't matter, but it's not going back in the paddocks basically because he doesn't have room for not perfect.
Yeah, right.
So he's the last 4 years, I'm not sure about this one yet because the wool hasn't gone through to auction, but the last 4 years he's got a PP bale, which is, we call it Perfect Plus. And out of, I think it was, I don't have my notes in front of me, but out of 1.5 million bales, I think, produced last year, I think there was 18, and he had one. So
really?
It's a tiny percent, and the Italian market goes nuts for it. So
wow,
it's really, really hard to get that PP status in your fleeces because you need over like 100 kilos of it. And, you're pulling 1.5 to 2 kilos off a sheep. So you need a lot of sheep. And if there's any cream in it or the micron's not right or it's not strong enough and it breaks, like that fleece is gone. And you start running out of fleeces real quick and you need to get 100 kilos worth of them. So
yeah, well, so there's consistency in that. It's not just the individual animals, it's the farm, right?
Exactly right.
There's a lot that I don't know that way of life, but that I see these crossing over between greenkeeping and farm outdoors, outdoor activities in agriculture and that sort of stuff. But I hear between you and what you're talking about with your brother, it runs in the family, obviously. But there's a lot in there, a lot of management things, a lot of skills, a lot of attention to a lot of detail.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's right. And it's like, superintendents or course managers producing greens. You want that consistency. You don't want to be on one green that's stimping 12, and then the next green's 9, and the next green's 14, and
bumpy as all hell. It's
exactly right. So he's looking at breeding. He's looking at paddocks.
I was going to say
the paddocks, etc.
I could just imagine all the things, and lots of those are things that you don't have control over either, because it's outside, right? It's on.
Yeah.
So it's up in the high country. There's all sorts of stuff going on, much like a golf course.
Absolutely. So we try to control as much as we can, obviously, and we've got a rotation of paddocks, and you put them in certain paddocks depending on what the weather's doing, and you've got them coated, so you're trying to protect that fleece as much as possible. But to get 4 PP bales in a year, in consecutive years, that's a true testament.
Wow.
And I think that's a fantastic achievement by him, and I'm really proud to be a part of that. And being asked to go back each year, and he doesn't need me. I do some data stuff, and I get involved and get into it, and I usually record a lot more than he needs, but he appreciates that, because then he can make more refined decisions.
Yep.
What fleece goes into what bin and what the weight was, and you can add it all up at the end, and he knows exactly what should be where. And he keeps inviting me back, so it's a good week, good food, and
good company, good
time.
Everything. Yeah,
exactly. So excuse me, I really enjoy that, and that's not much of a holiday, I guess, but that's how I recharge. I recharge by being busy. So
just not at a golf course, busy somewhere else.
Well, be surprised if I was at. I do enjoy my golf course. Don't get me wrong, but going and seeing other people's, I take annual leave to do things like that, to volunteer for tournaments and stuff. I really get a kick out of it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's unreal.
So, it's probably the one regret in my career up to this stage is the fact that I haven't been over to the States for a major.
Okay.
It's just, I probably didn't pursue it enough, I guess, when I was younger. Like I said, it's easy to make up excuses why not to go, but, I got married quite young, had kids quite young, so that, my kids would be old enough. I had the energy, I guess, to play with them and do work and burn the wick from both ends while I'm young. And then as I get older, well, they can look after themselves to a degree, maybe even look after me. And then, you can not settle down, but focus more on your career, I guess. So, I'm 38, and my daughters are 13 and 9. So
yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah, another 10 years they'll be looking after themselves to a degree, and I'll still be relatively young in a lot of people's eyes. So
for sure.
Not being over to the States probably my biggest frustration. I love the US Open. I think that's the best tournament on the calendar, and hopefully I can get over there in the next couple of years. But yeah, that's probably my one regret, I guess, from a career point of view.
Yeah. Okay. You never say never, obviously. Like you said, you got some potential time there that can make that work, but time will tell. So you were saying that the country, Mudgee or Orange, both little wine regions, nice wine regions. That's also something there too, mate. Did you ever throw the Hunter in the mix at all, and the Barossa?
Yeah, I am a bit of a wine buff. I do collect wine, but
but two lovely parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, so yeah, get back on track. That's right. Thank you, Steve. I saw that Duntryleague came up. Actually, I think Wentworth actually came up first.
Yeah, I can't remember. Both similar time, because I knew Grant, who was the super before a couple of times ago at Duntry. But yeah, I think there was Wentworth and Duntry, because I know a few of the people.
Yeah, so I didn't know much about Wentworth. I've heard a lot about Duntry, I guess. That's the main club, I guess, west of the mountains, without sounding rude. Now being a part of it, but yeah, it's probably the bigger club that people know of from the city.
Yeah.
So
yep.
I made a phone call to Wentworth, and they kind of said, they're going through the motions a little bit, but they've kind of got their guy. So I said, okay, no worries.
Yep.
It is what it is. And then I think it was the next day I had a couple of text messages come through from different people, and Duntryleague have advertised. And I thought, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. whoever's at Duntry's going to Wentworth. So anyway, I had to think about it, and I went and had a chat to Cam and said, I'm going to throw in for it and just see what happens, mate. He goes, yeah, no worries. Anyway, one thing led to another. Anyway, I was offered the job, and then kind of things got real, I guess. So decisions had to be made.
All of a sudden, it was on your lap, and you're like, wow, I didn't expect that to happen so fast.
Yeah, well, your first Supers position that you apply for, you expect to get spat out pretty quick and take as a learning experience, but didn't quite go that way. I was always pretty confident if I got into an interview and I could get a face-to-face, I'd back myself pretty good. But, trying to get into that interview is usually the hardest part. A lot of resumes come over the desk and stuff. But anyway, I was able to get in there and walk the course and, I guess, portray my thoughts and, I guess, visions that the club could go down if they were to employ my services. But, got offered the job and took a little bit of time to think about it, but accepted the role, obviously. So that was October 2023 and coming up on 2 years now.
Yeah, right. Okay. Wow. Congratulations, mate. That is a career path and a half to get to that. I mean, and that's 2 years ago from today. So, mate, what was the feeling like when you land the family and your feet, everything's moved, you're officially a resident of Orange? What was that feeling like walking into the shed and your first posting? All of the stuff you'd done before he got you to this point, probably didn't think it was going to be out in the country, but it did. What was that like?
Yeah, so there were a couple of things, I guess, Steve. I had a kind of an empty feeling when I was offered the role, and I was thinking about it because here I am leaving a really good position at Bonnie Doon with a really good crew and a good golf course, and how much we had done there. Like we had finished stage 3, we'd built stage 4, we had done a couple of big projects, we'd run some tournaments, we'd built, a work health and safety system with Ben Gibson from the Toolbox team, we'd created a culture. There were genuinely guys there that if I was stuck on a weekend or something outside of work, I could ring them and they would come. And that was just the mindset of the team. We're almost family. So to walk away from that, having been involved in it, I kind of asked myself, could I do it again?
Yeah, sure.
Could I create that? Kind of by myself. Like, I've obviously had the help from Cam and Brad, and we kind of all did our part there. But could I take that with me and rebuild that? And it was an empty feeling. Obviously a really good opportunity, and like a nice big shiny door to walk through, and you look back and it's really fond memories that you're walking away from. So, I accepted the role and accepted that in person. That's a big part of me. I wanted to be here in person and accept the role. So, I rang Cam up and told him, and he was really happy for me. So that was really good. But I guess the strange thing, and everyone knows I do things a bit differently, but I decided to come up here by myself for 3 months.
Okay.
Just to make sure, it's what we wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Shannon and the kids stayed back in Sydney, and I came up here, and that was probably another part of it too, was Shannon knows that I'm pretty committed to work, and I think if you're going to be good at something, you do have to fully commit yourself, and that doesn't mean push the family to the side by any means. She's fantastic, and she's held the fort strong multiple times, and I'm appreciative for that. And I spend as much time with them as I can, but at the same time, I'm obsessed with what I do. So, if you're going to be good at something, you need to be living and breathing it and doing it constantly. I'm always trying to read things and learn and stuff. So I probably have pushed the family to the side a little bit for my career, and not intentionally by any means, but it's just because of how good I want to try to be at my job, I guess, in my career. And she knew going up here as a super, she said, I'm not going to see you, so what's the point of coming? So we decided for 3 months. So I just came up here and I ground away for 16 hours a day, basically. Because I walked into a bit of a strange situation. I had 4 staff. One was my assistant, who was full time. Another guy was kind of just sitting on a rock at the driving range, just for about a week straight, and they offered him a role because they had no staff. So he was kind of just part-time casual, and then we actually had 2 casuals. Sorry, so we had 5 staff in total, and they were 2 days a week. So I think the most I had on any one day was 3.
Yeah, right.
It was a really, really strange setup. And then there was some damaged greens out there, unfortunately, for different reasons, and the machinery was in a pretty ordinary state, and obviously no mechanic at that stage, so I had to kind of lean on the skills that I've learnt and lean on some people that I know quite well, like Steve Blacklock, the mechanic at Bonnie Doon. He's always given me plenty of time and answered my phone calls, and even though he can see who's ringing, he still picks up, which is a testament to him, because he knows he's going to get some curveball questions. And
I'm thinking about modern phones, mate, where you could see who's ringing. I think back in the day when the phone would ring and people would jump out of their chair to go, "Who's ringing?" And now it's just like, "Oh, I'm not going to answer that."
Yeah, well, that's right. That's kind of what I'd expect from a few people. But no, Steve's brilliant. He's always picked up the phone for me, and he's helped me out immensely. So yeah, it was really strange going from these structured environments in Sydney, having plenty of resources available to, having next to no budget, barely any staff, and really old, worn out machinery. But I knew that coming here. The club was honest with me, and they weren't where they wanted to be, and there were things that needed fixing. And I've always said I've always admired the country supers. Not taking anything away from the metro guys by any means.
Sure.
But, with the lack of resources, the lack of staff, and the lack of finances, what they're able to achieve, that shows how good they are at their craft, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not just, we need this, go buy it. Oh, we need this, go buy it. Like, I know there's a higher expectation in Sydney and Melbourne and the capitals. Don't get me wrong. There's different pressures there, and I've been a part of it. But to come out here and create surfaces with 20-year-old mowers and, trying to think outside the box and fill the front rollers up with lead to get weight, so it's like you're rolling and mowing in the one, it's pretty cool to, like I said, push the limits and see what you can do when the money's taken away. Well, if the money's taken away, what do we do next? So I took that on as a challenge. So I wanted to recreate Duntryleague, I guess. It wasn't in the position that I envisioned it to be in, from what I've been told and what I knew of it. And I want to take this place and put it back up on a pedestal, because it is a fantastic property. And it's obviously got a lot of heritage about it and a lot of history. But it was definitely a challenge that I wanted to take on, and I wanted to rebuild a crew and create a culture, create an environment. And we're definitely not there yet, but we're well on our way. So that was the motivating factor, I guess.
Mate, there's a lot that you've taken on with your expectations of what you want to achieve at a place like Duntryleague. And I know the history of Duntry, having played there as a kid. Pennant's out there. I know that region pretty well. Travelled out that way a lot through all the Central West, because I grew up in the Blue Mountains. So it was interesting when I'd heard from a family friend of mine that lives in Orange, that I believe not too far from you physically. I think they're on the same street, that you'd come in, and I was told that there's a new super at Duntryleague. They live not far from us. They're a few doors down the road. And I was like, oh, it's a city superintendent. I didn't know you, Craig. I think I called you a couple of years ago, not quite, 18 months ago, and just to touch base, because of this family friend of ours, had said I should call you because you're big, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and got big ideas. And coming from Sydney, I was like, that's so odd. I won't say odd in a bad way, in a detrimental way, but it's not a common thing for a superintendent or a greenkeeper to come from Metro to the bush unless there was something family orientated to send them out there first, not the work decision first, in a sense, or taking an opportunity. But so I was keen to learn more from you, and that was in part why we caught up when we did not so long ago, to finally get out there and meet you and see what was going on, because we've been talking. But there's a lot of Duntryleague. It's a wonderful site which you touched on, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what it is, because we've been chatting for quite a while, and you've stepped us through so much of your career, mate, and I'm incredibly appreciative. But I would like you to now turn the table, if we can, a little bit to learn about Duntryleague in the time that we've got left, and I'm certainly conscious of your time and those people listening to here as well. So tell us a little bit about it. It's a very old site. I know it's an Eric Appley designed golf course, one of the few that he did from scratch. Tell us the history. Tell us what you got there.
Are there still people listening?
I
thought I put everyone to sleep.
Hey, the technical difficulties tried to stop us. So maybe, there you go.
That's right. Maybe there's a
If anyone's come this far, we're going to save a lot of this for our next part of the conversation, because that's going to get in the technical side of stuff. But I would like you to tell us with the time we've got left, a bit about Duntryleague as a golf course, a bit about it as a club. Put it on the map for us so that we want to get out there and see more. We've heard about you, so we know who you are. And now I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that wonderful golf course and golf club that you got there that you're part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So you probably know more than me, Steve, but I'll correct me if I'm wrong with anything. I know I've got little bits and pieces here and there, and I unfortunately don't have that history book that you have. But so Duntryleague was the homestead of the Daltons back in the day. I think we're coming up on 150 years.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess it was like a working farm to a degree. They had vineyards out here, etc. Anyway, over the years, orange has grown, obviously, and this is almost in the centre of town now, Duntryleague. It's probably not quite.
It's not far away from it, is it?
Yeah, not quite. So, but it's very, very close. So it's very, very central. And the Orange Golf Club bought the land and turned it into a working golf course. And we're doing some research. Excuse me. We're doing some research now on Eric Appley and the golf course and the design, etc. But from my understanding, without all the data in front of me and all the research, but it was designed by the head pro at the time. I can't remember his name. Forgive me for that.
Irving, I think was his name. I can't remember his first name. James Irving, I think it was, and Appley together. Yeah.
Yeah. So Irving kind of designed it, from my understanding, and then Appley signed off on it.
Yep.
And then I've recently found some plans of Appley from 1935, I think it is.
Oh,
and
wow.
They were hand-drawn plans. It's pretty cool.
You got me. Well, I'm coming out. We're already planning for me to come back out, so I'm keen.
Yeah, so he's drawn in and like shaded in bunkers where he said add new, and then cut this one off and remove this bunker, and yeah, he's put his little touches on it, and I guess things got lost in translation a little bit over the years, but sure. we're kind of trying to work all this out now. Excuse me, to kind of figure out where the club wants to go in the future. Yep. Obviously courses change over time and architects pass away, unfortunately, and new architects come in and courses get remodeled, etc. But the club is pretty strong on the Eric Appley side of things, and we don't want to go changing it too much, but we want to enhance the product that we've got. So we're working on that in the background at the moment, and what we can do. We've obviously been, our Achilles heel would be our bunkers. The drainage in our bunkers is terrible. In some areas we don't have a lot of fall. In other areas we've got huge amounts. Mm-hmm. So yeah, being very heavy soil or native soil, it's quite hard to drain, especially at a fast rate. So yeah, our bunkers are our Achilles heel. So they started the process before I arrived and then we've taken over since. And I've said to the club, I actually want full control. In a sense, I don't want contractors coming in and shaping and doing all this. We'll get the contractors in to pour the capillary concrete, because that's the product that they started with, and I believe is the best product for us out here. The logistics of getting it on site, etc. So I work with Ben Evans and Centura, and we've poured the last 2 years, and we've basically got all our front 9 done now, and we've got 10, 11, 13, 17 done. So there's only a few holes to go, but those holes, we need to look at the greens, because we've got some savage slope on a couple of our greens, and it's really tricky to manage from a greenkeeping perspective, because like most members, they want greens faster. But when we get them to the sweet spot, and we don't even roll our 12th and 18th greens, like I haven't rolled them for 2 months. Pins become hard, and like I said, I've got a crew of inexperienced guys, and they're trying to be as smart as possible, and we don't want to put holes near old plugs, and you got to be wary of this and wary of that, and you start running out of room, and we start, unfortunately, pushing the limits a little bit on pin placement, and obviously with the greens being quick, we can get ourselves into a little bit of trouble, but that's probably an ongoing battle until we rebuild these 2 greens. We've come a long way. We've done all the work in house with the bunkers. We shape them up ourselves. Like I've done a fair bit of shaping throughout my career on different things. I've seen a lot of construction, so I was the one to get in the excavator and start shaping, and I kind of worked out pretty quickly. I'm managing my time pretty poorly. I need to be overseeing things, and I am a worker here. I'm not bound in the office.
Yep.
It's hard because so many people demand so much of your time, like my captain, my president, and just the office staff. And there's certain things I need to do from an admin perspective. And I don't have an assistant in the office, so I've got to do my office work and get all my agronomics in check, etc. And then I've still got to be on the course guiding the guys. And they're very good, don't get me wrong. They're always looking for work and always working well and thinking for themselves, which is really comforting. But I still need to be out there, because when push comes to shove, if they don't have the answer, they look for guidance. So, I've trained one of the guys up to do the excavator work. You learn your crew pretty quickly, and one of my groundsmen, he likes machinery, and he's very good with machinery and dabbles in the mechanics a little bit. So he's our excavator guy, and he enjoys that. And the other groundsman, he's more agronomic. He enjoys getting the performance out of the grass. So he's like my spray guy. I'm teaching him to spray greens, tees, surrounds, etc. So over time he can take over, and in my absence, we've got someone, and obviously I'm going to train others up as well. But those 2 guys that are my groundsmen, they've got a very different set of skills, but they complement each other really, really well. So, we've rebuilt all those bunkers, redone all the drainage ourselves, teaching the guys how to use dumpies, getting fall. In some areas we can't get fall, so it's kind of like where do we take this water? So we've built underground cavities.
Sumps, yeah.
Yeah, big sumps and big pits, and we can take roughly 50 mil of rain without any issues in one hit. Once we get above probably 70 mil, there's probably 2 bunkers that struggle.
Yep.
And you start seeing a little bit of water, but you give that 6 to 8 hours of no rain, and they're a dry surface again in the bunker. So these cavities take anywhere from 5 to 8,000 litres of water, basically.
And if you've had that much rain out there, it's unusual. You're probably not playing golf anyway.
Well, that's exactly right. But, you install this beautiful bunker product and all new sand and everything, and if the members were to see water in those bunkers, it's not a great look. So we want to do everything we can to mitigate that, obviously. But, when you've got no fall, it's really hard, and you don't have infrastructure in the ground. You can't
plumb it into anything.
Exactly right. So, Yeah, no, it's really cool. And obviously the surfaces, we're just trying to improve them. As I said, there was a few greens that were really, really struggling when I first got here. And in hindsight, unfortunately, they started turfing them before I got here full time.
Right.
And the nursery wasn't real good. It was a different species of grass, different soil structure. So we've been battling that a little bit. A couple of other greens we just let grow back in naturally. My theory was that if we're running power greens, what does power do at seed? So there'd be a massive seed bank in the ground. We just need to let it germinate. So yeah, those greens have come back and they're in a really good spot now. So we've cleaned the weeds out of the fairways. They were probably 60-40 when I got here. 60% South African, 40% undesired species. So yeah, we've cleaned that up to about, well, I say 80-20 because I believe there's always more there than what you think, but you seem to think there was 90-10 when you were here. So.
Yeah, mate, if you were spotting much weed there, you were doing well. But I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you mean.
So yeah, we're trying to clean that up and we've reshaped the surrounds. There seems to be a common thing out in the country where you do like a lap around the green with a collar mower, and then you use the sidewinder. That kind of cuts at 20 mil all the way out to the trees. And it's not a look that I particularly like, maybe because I'm not used to it. But I quite like, the fairways blending into the surrounds and then incorporating around the greens. And whether you go inside or outside bunkers, that's a choice for the superintendent and the golf course and that. But we go inside bunkers because of the slopes.
Yep.
And our triplexes just wouldn't be able to get up some of these slopes. So yeah, we've changed the cutting routes and how we do things and how we present, and the members I think they were a bit shocked at first. That first 3 months, there was probably a dozen things that changed pretty quickly, and they were probably asking themselves if they made the right decision. And you never know, they might still be. But yeah, like I said, the board have been really good. They were able to give me a long leash, trust me, and trust where I've been and what I've seen and what I've done, and we've tried to present the best course we can and improve it as much as possible. So,
mate, it's great to hear you talk about it that way and the things you've done. And it takes a board with an open mind to be able to recognise that they probably aren't, like you said early on, they recognise that they weren't where they wanted to be. So they've got to do things differently to get to new goals. And having you there doing things with your vision and working with them and getting an understanding of where you want to take it, they have to know that there's going to be some change, and whilst not everyone on the membership's going to like it or agree with it or even understand it, to be fair, they have to come along for the ride in the same way. And having seen it, so I was there. It's only 4 weeks ago, I guess, and that was that was then in the end of August, I think it was, and I just thought it was outstanding for winter. For what I saw, you saw that I was looking into things that I know what to look into on a cold climate golf course. South African Cooch, I know what it is. I've worked with it in the past, not as much as you've got, which is incredible. That's outstanding, the services you've got. The Power Greens, I was picking your brains, and I think you were wondering what the hell I was doing. I was asking questions probably no one had asked you before. I loved it. I thought it was incredible. I thought your vision of where you want to take it, and provided the club, like you said, they are going to help you get there because you're going to help them get there. It works hand in hand. And as long as everyone's working together to get to these goals, you'll get there. I think it's incredible. And I think the golf course itself and all the things that you've described there as part of it, the details of the turfing and the way that the course is set up and it's arranged and the history of it is all part of it's part of the charm of Duntryleague. And I say charm for a reason, because it grabs you pretty quickly. It's like walking into a beautiful old, and it's the mansion that's there. That's the Dalton house. That this ginormous mansion that people lived in, the Dalton family built and lived in, is staggering. And that's part of it. This oozes charm on and off the golf course. And it's the landscape, because it was the gardens of the property that the golf course is routed throughout as well, which is part of the trees that you have, mate. The whole lot of it is just this magnificent golf space and charming country environment. There's so much to it, and I want people to understand, hearing what you've said and what you're doing, but understanding what there is as well to be there. So on multiple fronts, it's very much worth a road trip and a visit. And I can't say it highly enough. And I'm looking forward to coming back out because you and I are going to do another one of this podcast that's separate to Keeper of the Greens, because this is about learning about you and touching on the golf course and learning a bit about the course. But I want to dive into the turf side and into the detail of what you're doing, mate. So, mate, it's so good to hear that, and you've got things you're looking forward to and you keep working on. You've got a lot of stuff, a lot of exciting times ahead, mate. You've only just started.
Absolutely. And like you say, that mansion, it's got 16 rooms in it, so we can have guests when we've got big tournaments, etc. And we've been fortunate enough. I've been able to, like I said, rebuild my team and get a really good group of guys around me. And we've hosted 2 women's regional qualifying events.
Yeah, were they on TV as well?
Live streamed on the internet.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Cecilia Choi won the first one in a playoff, and Lydia Hall won the second one. And both those girls, well, all the girls were complimentary, but Lydia Hall's won Scottish Opens and other big events, and she was brilliant. She came over and saw my team after the event and shouted them a round of drinks. And they're not winning $300,000 of prize money. She's only getting $3-4 grand maybe from an event like that. She bought the guys drinks, and she said she's never seen an event like that on such a small scale course, like in a country town. She said the surfers were brilliant. So, that was really flattering for my guys. It was, like I said, they haven't done major tournaments in the sense of Aussie Opens or anything. So they got a real kick out of that. They've produced a really good surface for those events, and even our Hahn events. We take a lot of work, and we do cop some criticism at times, and that's hard sometimes, especially when you're doing long hours and you're working hard. But we never go out there to ruin golf. And I think some members, unfortunately, think you do go out there with a sadistic mindset of, I'm going to put the pin here or there, and that's never the case.
I kind of have. This is where I have a bit of a struggle with the Greenkeepers Revenge Day. I know it's a bit of novelty and a bit of fun, but that in itself, I think, puts a bit of mindset sometimes in golfers when you have a pin that they might not like, or they play to a bad score. I think they have that in their head sometimes. That's just my own view.
No, I agree, Steve, and I can't remember if we touched on it or not, but my captain and pro wanted to do a Greenkeepers Revenge Day, and I said, no, I'm not interested. That doesn't really appeal to me. I'm happy to do like a crazy pin day or, something else, but I don't want to call it Greenkeepers Revenge.
That's 100% right. I couldn't agree more, mate. Well done.
So, I want to build a relationship with my members, not have it as us and them. So, we always strive to give members the best experience we can. It's sometimes you need the guests coming through, which we do. We're fortunate we get a lot of guests because, like you said, it's a good country town. It's a wine region. It's a good spot to come for a weekend or a week. And the guests just can't believe it. They can't believe it's out here. And, we've got these tree-lined fairways that we talk about and all these trees, like thousands of trees. And they were all planted back in the 40s, I think, roughly, the majority of them.
The majority of them, yeah, okay. There you go.
Yeah. And I was talking to Ted the other
Sterling,
day. Ted Sterling, who we know as an architect or a former architect.
Former architect, for Bonneville and Riverside Oaks,
He was mentioning to me that this is the largest grouping of trees in one area from outside that area, if that makes sense, that have been brought in. It's the biggest cluster of trees. So we've got things from over in the United States and all over the world where before quarantine was a huge issue. But he said that, he'd spoken to people about that, and it's just a huge amount of trees that have been brought in here, and it's such a large cluster of trees that it's quite significant. I think we've got the biggest stone pine in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, right.
Next to our 18th green, it's not doing great. It's got a big weak area in the trunk and stuff, but I mean, everything's got its lifespan, you know.
Yeah, not everything lasts forever. That's right. But
But
it all adds to the charm. And this is the picture of Duntryleague, and this is what I've found anytime I've gone there. Is exactly as you're describing it. It's wonderful. It is absolutely, it's a wonderland to go to for golf. And I was fortunate enough to stay in the mansion. I've done that a few times, and staying there again when we caught up was incredible. The feeling of going in those doors. You talked about the big door when you got out there in the bush, but those big doors that get you into the mansion, it's just a unique feel. I mean, there's nothing else like it in Australia. Full stop. I have never come across anything like that in Australia. So I urge anyone to go out there and experience something very, very unique, because that's what Duntryleague is. And you're adding now a level of the golf course that I don't know that I've seen there before. And you're doing, and you've got your sights set. Like, that's where you are now. You've got your sights set and then some, right? So I'm looking forward to digging in with you more about the detail of how you're going to do that with your turf, because you talked about power greens, we've talked about South African Cooch fairways, unique surfaces that people don't know about, that aren't very common. I mean, power is a little bit up in the mountains and that sort of stuff, but not in the way that you're doing it, which is what we'll dive into as well, mate. There's so much at Duntryleague for people that go out there for a visit and you'll see something spectacular, but go out there with big, wide open eyes, because there's lots to take in.
Yeah, no, look, it's a privilege to be here, Steve. It really is. Like, it could have been a number of people that got that job, and I could still be at Bonnie Doon or somewhere else. But yeah, to be here, like I said, everything happens for a reason. That's what I believe, and I think it's, people pay money to play here, and they travel to come here. I want to give them the best experience they can. It's not fair for someone to come all this way and play and go, oh, that was mediocre, and you're like, yeah, well, I'm having a bad week, so I don't really care about the course. I'm the custodian of this property, so I've got an obligation to present it in the best possible condition every day. And I think I'm doing it in injustice if I don't do that. And if I get to the stage where I don't feel like doing that, or I'm not motivated to do that anymore, then that's a clear sign that it's time to move on. Probably like that sign where it was time for me to pursue a superintendent's role. But
yeah,
it's not fair to the members and their guests to not present this place in the best possible condition every day.
Yep. Well said. Well said,
So,
Craig. Mate, I'm conscious of your time. I'm conscious to the person who's still listening.
well, yeah, I was going to say, I've got plenty of time, but, we're only getting older.
And I think we've painted a wonderful picture. I do want to say thank you so much for going through your career the way that you did, the openness and the honesty of speaking about those things that you've gone through, the things you've learned, the things that you've seen, what you've been part of, who you've worked under, and what you've learned, mate. That is a great testament to yourself, your vision, the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you conduct yourself professionally, and the way that you go about your work. And there's lots in there for people to, I suppose, aspire to. I think there's lots in there for people to learn from, and even sort of in their own career paths to maybe look in and go, you know what, I could learn from that, or I feel like I'm doing some of those things that that Craig's done, or they might even want to get in touch with you, mate. But I really do appreciate you speaking the way that you've done. And I'm sure everyone's got a great deal out of this. Now, I will say, and I'll preface it by saying that we're going to do something else. I'm not sure what segment I'm going to call it, but it's basically going to really dive into the turf at Duntryleague and the specifics behind the way that you're sort of trying to get something special out of that and provide better surfaces that you strive to do every day anyway. But I want to learn more in the detail, and I want you to be able to share that with people out there who are interested in learning more, and they might be golfers that want to understand some of those details as well, mate. So we're going to do more, and that won't be far away. But, mate, I just want to say thank you for everything you've talked about, and mate, it's been incredible chatting with you. I really am glad that we were able to make this happen, because I'm stoked that mate, and I'm privileged to have you on. Fantastic.
Oh, that means a lot, Steve, and goes two ways. I appreciate being brought onto this platform and podcast, and I think if you got the opportunity to speak and enlighten people, you got to take it seriously. There's no point me hiding behind mirrors or walls or anything and only giving half the picture. It's, I could help someone's career, or someone might feel like they're in a similar situation to me back in one of my roles. And like you said, they might want to reach out, and I'm more than happy for people to do that. But I think if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, you're probably kidding yourself. You're probably hiding a little bit. So I want to be honest. If I can help someone in the industry, that's my goal. That's why I took on teaching at one stage. That's why I like investing in staff, teaching guys to think outside the box, trying to build them up. If one of my guys came tomorrow and said they wanted to move on, I'd be more than happy for them. I want to give them skills so they can move on, but I'll create a place that they don't want to leave. So, look, it's a privilege to be on here, Steve, and I hope I haven't bored anyone. But if I can be of assistance to anyone, or if someone wants to get in touch, they're more than welcome. I thank you for the opportunity.
No, mate, the pleasure is all mine. I'm grateful that you've been able to spend so much time chatting with me, and to everyone listening. And I know there's going to be plenty of people listening. I can guarantee that much, mate. I say it in jest that there's only one person left, but it's been a great time to chat, mate, and we've covered a lot of stuff there. And once again, I say thank you, Craig, and thank you so much for being on the podcast, Craig Geeve, Superintendent at the wonderful Duntryleague Golf Club in Orange. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. What a sensational conversation that was. Craig Geeve, Superintendent at Duntryleague Golf Club in Orange. Thank you, Craig. That was absolutely unreal having you on. Great chat. And ladies and gentlemen, to you out there listening, I hope you really enjoyed that one. It was a long one, and you know what? It was just sensational. Great to chat with Craig. He is a wonderful thinker in our industry, and I can absolutely say that. He's a deep thinker. He thinks outside the box. You heard it all there. He does some wonderful things with his team on course there at Duntryleague, and we're going to bring more to you about that. We're going to do another interview together, and we're going to dive into the nerdy, turfy, deep into the science and the mind behind Craig and the way that he's trying to produce turf surfaces at Duntryleague, because it really is something special and something that I haven't really come across before. And the passion that he's got and the way that he thinks about things is, I know very few people that have a mind like him, that think the way that he does, and I absolutely love when I meet people like Craig and the way that they think, I just love having a chat with them and diving into their mindset and what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve. And it's just really exciting to hear a young person like Craig think that way, and critical thinking. So I think there's something in there for everybody. I hope there was. I hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to having a chat with Craig again soon on the podcast. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, and subscribe. I really do appreciate the help that you have passing it around. If you know anyone out there that might be interested, please share the podcast out to them. A review is a wonderful way to continue to help me get the podcast out to new people and new listeners. That's how the recommendations work in the podcast app world, is based around the reviews. So that's a big help, ladies and gentlemen. And like I mentioned, show notes, clickables in the show notes. Lots of homework done there for you, and it's a way for you to go in there and check out the things and the places that we discussed in that podcast conversation with Craig and I. Make sure you check out John Deere Golf as well, ladies and gentlemen. Big supporters of the podcast, and they're passionate about the turf industry, and they're here to support you. So lean on them. Get in touch with them and find out how they can help you look after your turf surfaces better, no matter where you are across Australia and New Zealand. And you can find out where your local dealers are to get in touch with them at deere.com.au. Easy search, easy to find. They want to support you. So get in touch with them and find out how they can. There's nothing better than having a great team, and you can have John Deere involved as part of your team. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.